so that you don't get words confused. It helps avoid the ums, the ahs, maybe those awkward transitions. And so it's just about really being cognizant of what you want to say, taking the time to say it. And then the other thing that I really wanted to point out for you for practicing is refocusing the conversation to the message you want to deliver. We're going to explore this a little bit more. But this is not an uncommon thing in a media interview where you go in, you've got your talking points developed, you have your message, you've done all of your research, and you're ready to deliver this bang-up job on this interview. And then the next thing that happens, the reporter is asking you questions that you were not prepared for. Those don't tie into your talking points. That's not the message I wanted to deliver. Why are you going this way? And so learning how to refocus the questions, even from a reporter, can really help you deliver the exact message that you want to deliver. So some of the practice techniques, and there is also a document on board. I believe it's 3 or 4 pages, but it's got a whole list of practice techniques. The first couple of pages are some do's and don'ts, and then it's followed by really exploring these practice techniques more in depth. So the very first one that we're going to talk about is pivoting and bridging. This is a technique that you use when you might be faced with that unanticipated question or a difficult question that the reporter is posing to you. And oftentimes those types of questions have the ability to completely pull you off topic. And a good spokesperson will know how to stay on topic no matter how hard a reporter or an interviewer may be trying to pull you off topic. So pivoting and bridging, there's some examples there on the right-hand side. If you're asked a question, one way to redirect that might be, I feel that the important thing we need to focus on is, and then you go right back into your message. So it's a good way. It doesn't really matter what the question is that the reporter was asking. You're acknowledging the question in a sense, but you're going back to the message that you want to deliver. So another example that's there is, thanks for bringing that up. However, it's also important to emphasize. So again, still acknowledging the question that the reporter has offered or has asked, but bringing it back to the message that you want to deliver. We talked about pausing earlier, but it's important enough that it's actually part of the practice techniques that are in that document. So pausing helps you listen to yourself. It helps you modulate the pace at which you're delivering your speech or your message. And it helps reduce some of those filler words like and ah. Blocking is a technique that is used when a reporter is asking a question that they know that you probably don't want to answer. Let's say that there was something that was challenging that came up for your organization or your agency, and they kind of are putting you on the spot with this question. So one of the things that we want people to understand is that saying something like, I have no comment, just not acknowledging the question, whatever it might be, those are not good ways to respond. But here's a way that you can respond that, again, acknowledges the question, but it shifts the conversation back to what you want to deliver. And it's just as simple as, I can't answer that. Maybe you explain why you can't answer it, maybe you don't. It's fine to just say, I can't answer that. But what I can tell you is, then you go back to delivering your message. And then another practice technique is flagging. So this is really important, especially if you have sound bites that you want a reporter to pick up on. So it tells the reporter what you're about ready to say is really important. And that means that they listen a little bit closer and they're more likely to grab that piece and use it as a soundbite. So an example of flagging is, it's important to remember. So you're using the term important and then giving them a cue that this is what they want to remember. And then once again, you just go back to the message that you want to deliver. I am going to just go ahead and pause for a moment here and see if we have any questions, or if there's any of these aspects that anyone would like to delve in a little deeper on.
Thank you, Ivy. Yeah, open it up to the group. Any items that we have questions on so far? Considerations, experiences anyone's had with media so far that they'd like to share? Ron, Dana Perino hasn't, also from the Southwest, hasn't interviewed you yet?
I got a call just yesterday from Zach up in Casper wanting information about the BLM RMP. And all I ever told him, although he asked me repeatedly about, new solar projects and all these types of things, is that I don't have anything to actually tell you. But if you'd like to send me an email, I'll get it to our comms team.
That's great.
That is always a safe way to go. Let me put you in touch with the right people. Very wise move, Mr. Wild. Dr. Aldrich.
Yeah, I was just going to say, I have, whether it's a positive or a negative, I have a lot of opportunities to interact with media locally. And I have found that, the thing to remember is at the end of the day, they're just trying to do their job and I'm just trying to do mine. And building a relationship with those individual newspaper reporters and those television reporters has really been beneficial for me. Conversations, and I'm able to find out, how they got to Cheyenne, why they're here, what they're liking about it, what they're not liking about it. I find that a lot of times, before they run something, they'll call me and say, hey, I just want to run this past you first, because there's that mutual level of respect and that relationship is huge. Unfortunately, in our current media market, as you probably are aware, we kind of are a training ground for like every other media market in the country, I think, and they turn over pretty quickly. But that piece of building a relationship is huge, I think.
Yeah.
Thank you for sharing those things. And I do think that it's really important that you think about the media as, even when they are asking folks tough questions, at the end of the day, that is literally what their job is. That's what they should be doing. It's your job to be prepared for it. So I really try to avoid any type of villainization of the media because they're so integral to a free and fair society, right? And at the end of the day, we need them and we need them asking the tough questions. It's just our job to be ready to answer those tough questions. Okay, so if
I can jump in just really quick. Yeah, I will. I've had limited opportunity, and so and maybe most of us never within our council roles have to utilize any of these points and these considerations because you may not have to deal with media, but you may, or you may within another role that or capacity that you serve in, and so we think this is useful. But I will say, I mean, local media does have a different approach than either regional or national media, where typically there's a narrative that they're trying to employ, they're trying to tie it into other stories, they're trying to use your story as something that kind of ties into something that's happening on the national stage. Local media is typically more about community uplifting, community celebration, looking for interesting points, looking for wins that they can celebrate with community readers. And so it's a slightly different angle. A little less treacherous, perhaps, but I will say that I think these talking points are super useful, and as I mentioned, I don't, they may or may not come into play for you, but I think one of the more important things for us to understand as council members is kind of the boundaries. What is it we're able to say we have some confidentiality restrictions upon us. And so we may need to at some point have kind of Jennifer remind us or share those with us, or have Ivy kind of share those with us so that we know what we can say and what we can't say. For instance, there are certain training grants that we award that, those are confidential in scope, or the materials that come across our desk that we use for evaluating them are confidential. So understanding those types of boundaries, and I think is also something that's worth touching on. And then lastly, making sure that when we answer, we know that we're answering, and that the audience that we're speaking to understands that we are answering as council members for the Workforce Development Council. We are not a part of the Department of Workforce Services. We don't speak on behalf of one-stop centers. We do have boundaries that we need to be very cautious and cognizant of. And if any of that seems too much, then punt and bring somebody else in. As Ivy was mentioning, or as Ron was mentioning, bring in, someone else from the council, whether it's Eric or me or somebody who's closer to the topic. So anyway.
Thank you. Those are excellent points. And to your point of the local media market, you're absolutely right. And that gives you a very distinct advantage as well, because that means that oftentimes you can present a story to a local reporter if there's something that you really want to talk about, you want the community to be aware of, and they're far more likely to pick up that story because of their focus on community and community interest. So excellent point. Now, so I'm going to move into a slightly different topic here with the last couple of minutes that I have with you, but I thought this was really important that we have this conversation because we do know that there are some pieces of legislation that are coming up, and some of these bills are actual bills that the Department of Workforce Services worked to put together and found sponsors for. So you may get questions about these pieces of legislation. There also may be other pieces of legislation that we don't know are going to come yet that come up. You might get asked about them. And so for me, it was really important that we had a brief conversation about lobbying and what you can and cannot do as council members specifically. So when you think about what lobbying is technically advocacy, but it has a much more narrow focus, right? It is for a specific legislative or political purpose. So that might be a law, it might be a candidate. What you need to understand is that government funding, and both federal and state funding, apply to the council and workforce services because, as you know, the bulk of our funding is federal funding. So we have all of those federal requirements that we have to meet to make sure that we're not doing anything that's considered lobbying. Obviously, you as private citizens have every right to engage in any political speech that you so choose. But it's important that the distinction is very clear between me, Ivy McGowan Castleberry, a resident of Campbell County, and me, Ivy Castleberry, an employee for Department of Workforce Services. And the same applies for you all as well. So things that you need to make sure you're avoiding is any time you might be paid for, grant-funded travel, grant-funded equipment, whatever that might be. None of those resources are available to you as council members or to us as employees for lobbying. We can advocate or inform on what the potential implications might be, what the outcome could potentially be. We can provide information, but we cannot lobby. We cannot form an opinion and advocate for that opinion as it pertains to legislation or political matters. There's just this very quick kind of a, is it lobbying or is it advocacy? Because sometimes those lines might seem like they blur a little bit. So the general advocacy here on the left-hand side, no, this is not advocating, no, this is not lobbying, this is just general advocacy. It's sharing best practices and success stories, making available research, studies, whatever data that might help lawmakers arrive at the best legislative decision that they can. You know, just providing that general information, technical assistance if you're asked for it from a legislative body, comparing that against what are some actions that are clearly defined as lobbying. If you're attempting to influence specific legislation, kill a bill or advance a bill, that is lobbying. Advocating for the adoption or rejection of legislation, writing lobbying materials that support a position or specific recommendation, preparing arguments to support your position, reaching out, making contact with legislative staff. That it might be our congressional delegates. It might be our local representatives. It might be the mayor. It might be, it ranges across the board from local to federal. So be mindful of that. And probably one of the areas that is the trickiest to really navigate and making sure where we can really find ourselves in trouble is urging members of the public to take a position and connect and advocate for that position with their rulemaking body. So, like I said, I just wanted to touch on those things because I do know that we have legislation coming up. I do know that your communications committee is really looking at ways that they can start engaging more with the media. And the potential exists that you might find yourself in a position being asked about legislation. So if you are doing an interview as a member of the council, I ask that you be very cognizant if you're asked questions about legislation that exists or maybe potentially coming. So with that really does end my presentation. The last thing that I want to offer to you is that we have a phenomenal communications team here. So if you are considering reaching out to local media, or if you've been contacted by local media, please do not ever hesitate to connect with our communications department. They'd be happy to do more training with you, some practice sessions, whatever it might take. So I've included their email address there as well as mine. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Ivy. Thanks for putting that together, and hopefully you guys found that a little bit helpful as you may be working with local media. We've been asked, and Danny has put it out, that like us to get our op-ed pieces out, like to reach out to local media and share with them a little bit about who we are and what we've done. I've done that recently with our local media here, and the beauty there was I was able to just say, hey, I'd like to send you something, take a look at it. If you think it's worth following up on, reach out to me. And he kind of ran with it as I wrote it. So again, we're not on heavy timelines based on the type of activities we're involved with. And I think mostly media in our community is trying to find a great story, the great local stories that are uplifting. So Danny, do you have anything as the communications subcommittee chair that you'd like to touch on in this process?
I don't right now, and I will speak to relying on the DWS comms team when I've had questions come up and kind of how we speak about things. If we get that op-ed out to your local media, make sure you understand what's in there and what we're saying as an individual that's going to your local media, but don't be afraid to turn around and talk to the DWS team. They're experts in what they're doing. They have messaging tight. Turn it that way if you can. I mean, I've had, just local newspaper people here in town, small papers, ask about it. And I say, I can speak on a very surface level. I can't pretend that I'm an expert in this stuff, and I'd love to put you in contact with DWS. It's a very easy way to play it, and they're going to know a lot more than I do. So I would recommend that. I mean, they've been really helpful to me. Even going to Jennifer and asking basic questions, she's able to put me in the right direction and get the right people going. So don't be afraid to do that. I like to speak off the cuff a lot, but not about this topic. About stuff at the restaurant or whatever is different. So
Yeah.
rely on the experts is what I would say.
No, that's great. I appreciate that. And for someone who lives in a very quiet community, Mayor Matt Hall, do you have anything you want to offer? Nothing happens up there.
Man, you had to pick on me, huh?
I do. You must get national media reaching out to you.
Yeah, no, I think all those points are very valid. I think the hardest thing is trying to implement the pausing, I find, and not get a little bit ahead of yourself when you're trying to talk with people of the press. I think as far as the council goes, I would certainly lean on staff and leadership. If there was any specific questions, that would be my advice for everyone on the council here. And I guess I wonder what bills we have coming up that we have to be cautious about lobbying for or against. But because I do think that from a council perspective, we, there might be some value in us to be able to talk with our legislators about some of those things. But I wouldn't want to overstep, especially if it was something sensitive. But otherwise, great presentation, Ivy.
Thank you,
Thank
Mayor. If I may, Chairman, just tag on to Mayor Hall's comment. The reason why we have such strict anti-lobbying requirements over us, really, well, one, we're a state agency, and so that comes with its own, the governor has been very clear with his agencies that they are not to engage in lobbying. That's what his office is for. So whether it's, and it's not just the agencies, it's the boards and the councils as well that that he's responsible for, that are his boards and councils. So that direction has been made very clear from the governor's perspective. Secondly, from the federal perspective, because of the federal funding that we have, there is an entire litany of code out there that prevents us from engaging in any form of political activity and actually puts our federal funding at risk if we were to engage in lobbying. In fact, one of the things that happened when we submit our annual proposals for our funding, we have to sign upfront anti-lobbying disclosure statements saying that we're going to comply with federal funding. Because if we are a recipient of federal funding, then as a member of that agency, we cannot engage in any of those political activities. While it may be beneficial, and maybe that's something that you want to do as an individual, and that you absolutely have that authority to do that, you just have to be very clear that you are making a distinction between yourself and Mayor Hall. You're in a unique position because mayors are actually exempted from, you have every right to lobby on any topic that you want. So, yeah, it can be a little bit challenging, but you can lobby. You just have to make sure that you're very clear that you're doing it as an individual and there's no connection to the council or workforce services in any fashion.
Great. Thank you, Ivy. Thank you very much. So we had scheduled a 10-minute break. I'm going to probably cut that a little short. We'll probably have a little 5-minute bio break, refill the afternoon tea. But as I'm sitting here thinking about this, one of the significant media opportunities that presents itself to us is around the Next Gen program. And so we've got John Melville with us here. He's next on the agenda to talk about what's next for Wyoming as it relates to Next Gen. And I'll ask John to maybe touch a bit on kind of his interactions with media and or when we may want to bring him into the fold as you're working with your local partnerships. And because again, it provides yet another opportunity for us to kind of get the word out. And so there's an opportunity there, but at the same time, we just need to be cognizant of any of the potential risks that are involved. So let's go ahead and take 5 minutes. It's now 2:59. We'll go to 2:05, or I'm sorry, 3:05. And at 3:05, we'll reconvene and have John for 30 minutes walking us through what's next for Wyoming. Thank you. There's John. How you doing today, John?
Hey, David, how are you?
I'm doing well. Are you in the home office in San Francisco?
I am south of San Francisco, but yes, back in California, it is a sunny day in the midst of a lot of rain, which is good for us, actually. More,
yeah.
please.
Well, what are we sitting at? I don't know, 10 degrees and cold and whatever. Whatever. I'm not sure what we're doing
I'll
here.
be there in February.
Oh, wonderful timing. Excellent. Well, very good. Well, welcome back, everyone. Excited to have John here with us today, talk a little bit about the Next Gen update, as well as kind of what's next for Wyoming. So, John, without further ado.
Well, thank you, Mr. Chairman. I must say this, any meeting where the Gettysburg Address comes up is a good meeting.
Yes,
I would say. Thank you, Ivy, for that reference. And many of you may or may not know that Lincoln actually was not the featured speaker that day.
Oh, wow.
It was somebody named Edward Everett. He was actually the best known orator of the time. And he spoke for 2 hours before Lincoln. And actually it was very thoughtful, it's very learned. But after Lincoln then got up and gave his 2 minutes, Everett wrote him and said, "I wish I had come as near to the central idea of the occasion in 2 hours as you did in 2 minutes."
Wow.
So in that spirit, I'm going to make this quick. I think the bottom line for me is I'm seeing a lot of new energy around Next Gen. Post Academy, last of our March Academy, and then coming into 2024. We currently have 8 partnerships, 3 manufacturing, 3 healthcare, 1 hospitality, construction, with number 9 coming online by the end of February. And 10 and 11 looks like they're in the offing. So we're moving forward. 7 regions are represented, which is good. We've had new launches. Bighorn Basin, thank you, Mayor Hall, for helping with that, in hospitality, and Natrona Converse Central Wyoming Healthcare Partnership. So that also launched in mid-2023. On the 29th of February, we are going to be launching the Laramie County Healthcare Partnership. So that's a major breakthrough. We'll be doing that in Cheyenne. And we are going to be, there are going to be relaunches on the Tri-County Healthcare and, of course, Fremont as well, coming up. So launches are actively going on. There's active interest and exploration going on. So in the Northeast, with healthcare and manufacturing. Larry Fodor, I know you're still here, I think. Thank you. You're spreading the word and doing great things across the state. So that continues to go. Danny, we've been talking about hospitality partnership, working with you. We've also seen the Circle be grown in existing partnerships. So Ron Wild, the Southwest. I should probably just turn this over to Ron, because it's all about the Southwest. We all know that.
Mm-hmm.
But definitely taking names. Last time I was there, we took names and we got volunteer commitments on a number of things. So, and new people, right, Ron? I mean, lots of new people signing up and being part of it. That's what we want to see 5 years in. The High Altitude Manufacturing Partnership and Albany Laramie are signing on some new industry champions, which is great. And we're also seeing new sources of interest and commitment. The Governor's Healthcare Task Force, and thank you, Jennifer Welch, for making that original connection. That has been tremendous. They have done a lot of referring us to potential champions across the state. That's what actually helped result in the Laramie County launch at the end of the month, as well as some serious conversations in the Northeast around a healthcare partnership. So that matters, to be able to connect into those kinds of groups and float the idea and raise visibility about Next Gen to those potential champions. Not everybody wants to do it, but it doesn't only take, as you know, it only takes a few people to really, few champions to really get something going on the industry side. So I'm thankful for that. And of course, council members. Yeah, Mayor Hall again, getting something going in the Bighorn Basin. Ron Wild always. Ivy, thank you for helping with the Northeast. And Fabian, of course, always, Mr. Chairman, your help in the Fremont as we work through the complexities of that situation. The other thing that I think is really important here is talent transition. That effort, that communications effort. I've had a conversation with the comms team. Thank you, Jennifer. And really want to make sure we're well connected to the next gen partnerships there to be able to promote careers in these growing industries. So we'll be working on that. And then Wyoming continues to get national visibility through the next gen community of practice. We still have people from Wyoming Partnerships participate in that. Wyoming was a major player in the development of a rural guide to building partnerships, which was funded by a foundation. And Wyoming had two of the sites in that, and really helped shape that document. So national visibility, that's good as well. So as I said, I'm seeing a lot of new energy. Reasons for that, I mean, certainly post-pandemic, people kind of getting back online, getting excited. I think we've got lots of new people, fresh faces, people who find it and say, hey, this is something I've been looking for. Let's run with it. Growing talent needs, that has not gone away. If anything, it's gotten more intense since 2018 when we got this whole thing going. So that remains a major motivator. And then, frankly, and thank you to all the council members, the outreach that you all have done, the connections that you've made, and the referrals that you've made have made a difference. You've spoken to this, you've raised the visibility, and so people that would be maybe natural champions of this kind of work are coming out of the woodwork and in different regions. So that really helps. Please keep it up. Appreciate that. The priorities that these partnerships are focusing on remain both past and present. This is very typically nationally. Two big ones, career awareness building kinds of activities, workforce visits, school visits, work experience, career fairs, that whole bundle of things that get youth and increasingly now adults into the pipeline to get into careers in these growing industries is super important. There's obviously been a lot of impact. There's new education and training programs, specifically at the community colleges, but also lots of more subtle or that don't necessarily get the headlines, changes in existing programming that because of the interactions that people have with the colleges and K-12 districts. So those are kind of the priorities that continue to be important. It's interesting that we mentioned housing, because that has definitely floated to the surface. Many, especially in the healthcare sector, are mentioning that as a real obstacle for them to bring people, not only bring people in, but have people stay and not leave Wyoming after they get their degrees. So this is part of the bigger picture, and why we don't just go into these partnerships asking people what their training needs are. We say, what's the big picture here? How does your industry really need to progress and be competitive? And things like housing can pop up, or broadband, or other kinds of issues can continue to be important. So as we go forward in 2024, our rules continues to be voluntary. We ask people, do you need help? If you want help, it's a first come, first served basis. There are ebbs and flows to this. Some regions need an intensive help right now, and then later on, not so much. Some regions don't ask for help at all, and they're continuing to function. Sometimes I come in periodically into certain regions. So it all varies depending on where they are in their life cycle. I continue to help people recruit and replace conveners, industry champions. This is a very normal process. After 5-6 years, you would expect there to be turnover, but it's a challenge because sometimes we lose conveners suddenly, and we have to respond quickly and figure out how we, without missing too much of a beat. So there's those kind of just natural ebb and flows and challenges that that we work on. We certainly continue to prepare for and conduct launches, coach mature partnerships and how to expand and renew their efforts. Also do Next Gen 101. So this is kind of the broader introductory sessions that we do for folks. Always happy to do that for groups of people. We've done them for larger groups, smaller groups, even one-on-one. So if you have interest or your constituency has interest, please reach out to Jennifer, and we can work on and provide those kind of introductions. I can even do like a 1 hour version of this that at least gets it on people's horizons, on their dashboards. And then of course we are working towards and planning the next annual academy, which is going to be on April 25th. And we want to make sure we have regional teams from the regions of Wyoming. So again, if there's things you can do there or you have questions about that, please let me know. And you know, how you can help as council members. Well, many of you have been, so, and again, thank you. For those of you who have not yet, you can certainly look at joining a regional team, especially if your industry is represented in the sector partnership, or if you're a public partner. There may be some opportunities to help out there and contribute. You can help your regional team in other ways too. You can help them with recruitment. Even if it's not your industry, you may have a contact that might be critical for them to land an industry champion. That's helpful. Or you may have connections to public partners that could be helpful. That's great. Or referrals. Anything you can do is really a positive there. We can connect people to state and other resources. So, and this in the past has been grants that have preference points for Next Gen partnerships. So that's important. And helping people, if you're from an agency that may have some of those kinds of opportunities coming up, please let me know. We can talk about that. I need to make sure that Next Gen partnerships are aware of that if it aligns with what their priorities are. Some of it won't, but that's fine. But some of it will, and we want to make sure that we can help them make that connect where it makes sense. I also noted, as I was listening to in the last couple of hours, things like the housing toolkit, the micro-credentials, especially around advanced manufacturing, the media training. These are all potential resources for Next Gen partnerships. So we will talk more about how maybe there's some opportunities to make some connections there. Of course, all of you are invited to attend the academy. Please do so if it works with your schedule and your availability. Would love to have you there either as an observer or as part of your regional team, more ideally. Welcome to do it. And I can help navigate that if you have questions about that. And of course, spreading the word. That has really helped to elevate this. Continue to do it. I think the media training is terrific in that regard. And I think with Mr. Chairman, to your question, I think, and I encourage the partnerships to do this, personalize this. This is really about people. It's about people in your community. It's about raising them up. There's some great stories there of what Next Gen partnerships have done to help people move into career and family paying jobs that would not be otherwise possible had these partnerships not exist. So it's important to lift those up as much as we can. And again, I encourage you to learn more. If you want a Next Gen 101, get in touch with Jennifer, and we may, I'm happy to put together something for the council just offline, or for a percentage of you that want to do that. All good. And then, and please reach out if you have any questions about what's going on in your region or anything. Please feel free to reach out to me personally, and or if you want, if you want to learn a little bit more how best you can help with your region, I'm happy to engage with you on that or anything else. And with that, I'm going to stop. A little bit more than 262 words. My apologies, but I'm no Abraham Lincoln. Trust me on this one. But I will welcome comments from our council members who are involved in Next Gen partnerships. Love to hear about your experience. And Mr. Chairman, any questions, I'm happy to answer. Mr. Chairman, I believe you're on mute.
Of course I am. That's what happens when I start sneezing. I mute myself. No, thank you very much for that, John. I appreciate you sharing that perspective with us. Any questions from the team and or for those long participating members of the council that get involved with next gen sector partnerships from a volunteer basis in their local communities, like Ron, like Larry? Anything that you guys have that you'd like to bring to the front? Oh yeah, Ron, you've got your hand up.
So, Mr. Chairman, I just want to point out that as of last Friday, we have our first female power line participant. She's a single mother of 3, and she's going to start climbing power poles.
Right on. That's great. Larry.
John, thanks for your update. I just would like to ask if you could send me maybe your industry champion for the healthcare sector here in Laramie County.
Will
I
do.
have some recommendations, maybe of some folks that can get involved with that as well.
Terrific, Larry. Will do.
Director Cooley, did you have something?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the committee. I just wanted to make an observation too, for those of you that have been actively involved in the application processes for all of the federal funds that are out there, whether it's through the EDA or it's through the Department of Labor, what have you. What we are continually seeing is the requirement that you have sector partnerships. And it's been so wonderful to be able to provide letters of support or in our own applications to be that much further ahead than other applicants, because we can actually define those sector partnerships and where they're at and what they're doing in our state. So be thinking about that if you're involved in another organization even that is getting ready to apply for some of the federal funds that are out there. That's generally one of the things that we are routinely seeing, is that sector partnership activity with collaboration around these efforts. So keep that in mind, and I know that John would be more than happy to provide you any information he can around what the sector partnership in your area is doing for that application. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Director Cooley. John, anything to add to that?
No, absolutely right. Yeah, please reach out because I think that's a mutually beneficial opportunity, right?
Yes. Great. Well, John, thank you very much. Again, appreciate all your hard work over the last 4 or 5 years with the state of Wyoming. You seem to know more about us than most. And so we appreciate you having you here. And the more I get involved, the more I see it happening around our state, the more I'm convinced of this model for just real grassroots level benefit. And so I appreciate that you bring that to us. And I appreciate that we've got council members here who dedicate a significant amount of time towards that effort in their community. So thank you all.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. It's been an honor and a pleasure.
Great. Thank you. All right. On the next on the agenda, I believe Ms. Jennifer is going to walk us through spending plans and expenditures.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I will share my screen. All right, so today we'll be voting on the October, November, and December expenditures. Let me get these out of the way here. So starting at the top here, you can see the 3 grant awards that we have open at the moment, 21, 22, 23. So 21 is just about all the way spent. There was about $2 at the end of November, and I confirmed that was taken care of in the December expenditures. Overall, we have $824,000 for the council to spend. We will be getting another award, our first kind of initial pot of money for youth in April. And then I believe in May, we'll present the funding model to the council again.
Okay.
And our year-to-date expenditures are $541,955. That looks on track with where we are usually spending. Down at the bottom here, we have our current projects, the micro-credentialing, which we saw a presentation on here a little bit earlier. We've got about 80,000 left in that set aside. There's some funding left for the strategic planning. I believe we'll have that final invoice once those activities are all wrapped up. And the Southwest Manufacturing Partnership has money set aside. The MIS project, which is that higher WIO. The Workforce Center has been steadily replacing those kind of nasty cloth chairs that the council graciously agreed to fund, and then Lift Wyoming. And I will pause here before I move on to the next spreadsheet, if there's any questions on the council expenditures.
Yes, thank you very much. Are there any questions for Jennifer regarding the expenditures and or the planned spending? I do have one. I'm trying to remember, where did we settle out on the set aside? What is that percentage? Is it 10% of WHEEL funding?
I honestly, I can't remember what the straight percentage. I know it was a little different for each of the pots of money, youth, adult, dislocated worker, just because of the levels of funding. But I can certainly get that answer for you.
Okay. And did that impact, what years did that impact? That impacts 23 and going forward, or did that have any impact on 22 or 21?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chairman. We did, the council did agree to have that go into effect retroactively. So it affected the 3 years of funding that you see here, 21, 22, and 23.
Okay, thank you. Any other questions for Jennifer? If not, are you okay, Jennifer? I mean, should we welcome the motion to approve the expenditure plan?
Sure, we can do that.
I'll open it up for anyone to make a motion to approve the planned expenditures as shown.
So moved.
Thank you, Daniel.
Seconded.
Thank you, Ron. With a first and a second, do we have, I'm sorry, if you could signify with an aye as to whether you approve it or not. The motion is made.
Aye.
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 Any opposed? No. All right, that is passed.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I have pulled up on the screen here are what we call our local budget. So these are the WIOA fundings that the state receives after the 15% or lower percent that the council receives. So you see we have the same years open, 21, 22, and 23. On the Workforce Center side, 21 and 22 are completely spent or obligated. And there's just over 3.5 million remaining. And this is the total for the youth, adult, and dislocated worker funding. And I wanted to, you'll probably hear me say this every quarter, but we developed this budget and worksheet to kind of mirror the council's budget to help this group kind of understand on the Workforce Center side where funds are going. But we are open to suggestions if there's any additional information or specific things you want us to cover in these quarterly meetings. We're absolutely open to that.
Excellent. Thank you very much. Any questions regarding the expenditure report? No? Okay. Jennifer, do we need a vote on approving this?
No, not this one, Mr. Chairman.
Didn't think so. Just checking. Excellent. Jennifer, anything else before we move on to the next agenda item?
That's all I have. Thank you.
Great. Thank you very much. Jennifer, Next Gen Sector Partnership Academy funding request.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman and members of the committee. The Sector Partnerships and Career Pathways Committee met on December 6th and approved to move forward to the Strategic Performance and Finance Committee a budget of no more than $15,000 to host the Wyoming Next Gen Academy. It will be held in Cheyenne. You should be seeing on your screen a budget, a very rough budget right now, as it has not been approved by the full council. Not much planning has been able to move forward until we can sign contracts and expend money and know that a Next Gen Academy will be happening. Then at the Strategic Performance and Finance Committee that met in December, they also approved to move forward to the full council a budget of no more than 15,000 for the Next Gen Academy. So that is what's brought forward to the full council today.
Great.
Is approval for an estimated budget of no more than $15,000. Right now, most of the budget that you can see on your screen is for hotel rooms. And that is because traditionally the council will pay for the hotel rooms the night before a Next Gen Academy. And this is because, thanks to a lot of feedback from the Sector Partnership and Career Pathways Committee, the day before we will be hosting an in-person Next Gen 101, as well as offering local tours. We did have a council member offer to set up a tour, and we have some others in mind. This also allows people to travel to Cheyenne prior to the meeting. It will be held at 8:30 in the morning and go to 4 o'clock in the afternoon. We're holding this in Cheyenne, so I have already set aside the rooms at our conference space here at DWS. We can't offer catering, but we do like it. It's always available for someone to sponsor catering for a lunch for the Next Gen Academy. There will be some incidentals, some snacks, some water, and any possible supplies we might need, more markers or something like that for the academy. But the other big expense is the workbooks, and that's estimated at around around $900. So this is just a rough budget, but what is presented before you is to expend no more than $15,000.
Great. Thank you very much for that, Jennifer. And that's a fraction of what we've had in past years. I believe we were spending about 40,000 typically to host the academy. We've hosted it in various locations. And so, so I appreciate kind of the cost consciousness there of also being able to get it done, but reducing the cost. So with that we do have to vote on. I would welcome a motion for funding the Next Gen Sector Partnership Academy in Cheyenne.
Mr. Chairman.
Great, thank you very much, Eric. And I'm sorry, who we had a second? From Fred?
Yep,
Yes,
second,
wonderful.
Mr. Chairman.
Great, thank you very much. With that, all those in favor of approving the funding request, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? No? Wonderful. It passes. Thank you very much. Look at this, 8 minutes off. We're doing well. Great, thank you very much. Were there any other questions for any of those items with Jennifer regarding the funding request, the academy, anything else? No? Great.
Mr. Chairman, if I may.
Sure, please.
Since this has passed, I do have a save the date that we'll be sending out later for some virtual Next Gen academies that John and I have already put on the schedule and made up that you can share with members of your community, members, people who might be interested in Next Gen. The real hope is to get the word out. We'll be leaning on Ron Goldberg with the Business Council to put this up. We're going to talk to members of WIDA to see if they'll send this information out. The real hope is to raise even more awareness, especially as we have several new partnerships about to launch this year, but to really get the business community engaged in thinking about what they might do in their industry and in their communities. So we're going to have 2 virtual Next Gens, in addition to an in-person Next Gen 101 before the academy, so that we can hopefully get as many people as we can.
Great, thank you. And just a personal plea here, and I know we ask a lot of you and your time, and I appreciate the council has always been very generous in allocating time to these efforts and energies. If you do happen to be close enough to attend the academy, as a council member, I think it's a great thing to do. I think it's a great perspective on Next Gen Sector Partnerships, as well as just the actual, street level people that are making it happen in Wyoming. Seeing it in action is always a good thing. So if you can make it, you're welcome to join, and we'd certainly love to have you there. So thank you. With that, the next item is committee breakouts. And so Jennifer, do you kind of want to introduce that and how that's going to work for us?
Yes, Mr. Chairman and members of the committee, I would like to direct you to another Zoom meeting. Yay! Because I am not allowed to do breakout sessions in webinars. We can do them in meetings. And a wonderful member of the comms committee, Aaron Turbot, has already opened that meeting. Anyone can click that link, join whichever breakout room is appropriate for you. And we'll see you back in 10 minutes.
Yeah, so 10, did you say 10?
10 minutes. We have
yeah,
10
right.
minutes in our breakout sessions.
Got it. So we do have 3 different committees. If you are not sure if you are allocated or assigned to a committee, please let me know. We can review that. But we do have 3 committees, subcommittees of our council that are active in moving forward various items. We've got communications, we've got the Next Gen Sector Partnership Committee, and then we've also got strategic performance and finance. So please just stay on this call with me if you're not sure, and we can discuss that. Otherwise, if you can join that for 10 minutes, get your updates ready, and then subcommittee chairs, if you guys can kind of give us an update on what you guys have got going on when we get back on in 10 to 15 minutes.
Where do we go to find these links?
So right now the link is in chat. It's also found in Onboard.
Hi, this is Michael from the commission or Community College Commission. I'm not sure which committee that Dr. Moritz would be assigned to.
Oh, that's a good question. What was
That is
Dr.
a good
Mark assigned to? Do you remember? Or Sandra Caldwell?
I believe, here, I can look it up, but I'm pretty sure it's Next Gen.
I believe it is. But is that the most appropriate?
Because it's also Career Pathways.
Oh, well said.
Thank you.
So sector partnerships and career pathways.
Yes, if you can join that one with Tony Cross, that would be great.
So that one link will take us to all 3 and we just pick?
Right. So it
So
takes you
this
to
works.
one meeting that has 3 breakout rooms.
Never mind, I got it. Okay, we're starting to come back online here. Bria, amazing works behind you. Are those all going somewhere?
Thank you. This one, yes, is a commission, and this one will go somewhere at some point. But yeah, thank you.
Come here to my motel. I need to talk to you about that. That's beautiful. That's amazing.
I appreciate it.
She has skills I can only dream of.
Right? Let's give everybody else just a couple more minutes to join the group, and then we'll get going again.
Mr. Chairman, Eric just sent me a text and said he can see and hear us, but he needs to be added as a participant or added as a panelist, not a participant.
Oh, okay. But that would only be for him to talk. As long as he can see and hear us, life is good.
Just leave him there.
No, we'll do that. Is Jennifer on? Jennifer?
I am on. I really need people to check their spam folders for the invite link that
As
was
a
sent
panelist.
from Zoom that has your panelist stuff. Because Zoom is kind of listening when I push the button to make everyone a panelist that's an attendee, but it's like super sketchy.
So it seems like we've received two invitations. One is just as a participant, but then one was as a panelist, and he needs to enter as a panelist.
Yeah, so it's super handy to have the link on the agenda, but that's like the general attendee link, which is fine because I can move you over to panelist unless Zoom doesn't feel like doing it, which it hasn't been, but everyone received a link from Zoom that's their specific panelist link.
It's all good. Looks like ET's back in the clubhouse.
We're good. Thank you. Thank you.
All right, let's see. Do we have everybody back? How can I tell?
I know the Next Gen committee just finished, so it's going to take a minute.
Okay.
I think we're back, maybe.
Nice.
There was somebody from another committee who was sitting in that other room. I can't remember her name.
I think it was Aaron.
And then Larry was trying to get back here too.
I made it.
Oh, good.
Well, while we're waiting, because we'll give them one more minute, make sure everybody's here. Katie, sorry to put you on the spot, but we were talking about you this morning. Didn't want you to think that we weren't aware of the great exploits of Climb and what's going on there. I did share about a month ago a link for a podcast that you were on, which was super informative, super cool. Love the stories. But anything you want to share from Climb's perspective on the great efforts with Workforce and the Daniels Fund grant?
Well, thank you. I appreciate that. I was so bummed to have missed this morning too. And I just, the Daniels Fund recognition is significant, I think, for the state of Wyoming because they cover a 4-state region. And this is different than a grant. They're a funding grant partner of ours, but they approached us as considering us one of the top 3 performers of their 4-state region, and they've never had this award or recognition before. So I think it's a big deal and a testament to the state of Wyoming and the work that we're doing across the state. So we're happy to represent Wyoming on that stage. It's really exciting for us and for it says a lot about the resilience and the brilliance and hard work of the women that we work with. It's a really exciting award. Thank you for mentioning it.
Well,
Great job, Katie. Yay.
Thank
Nice
you.
job. You're a humble leader. I know you're putting a lot into it. You're putting everything into it. So I have to share a funny story. I was, my mother called me from Florida, from a retirement community in Florida, to say, oh, I understand for your motel, you guys might need some housekeeping or something like that, or other people like for a front desk. She goes, my neighbor here in Florida told me about this organization called Climb in Wyoming. You might want to reach out to them if you've heard anything about them. I was like, yes, I've heard about them.
I love that we're reaching the Florida audience.
There you go. Well done. Well done. All right.
Well, thank you.
I'm assuming we're all back. I understand Tony, he may have had to kind of in an emergency manner step out. So I won't put too much pressure on the Sector Partnerships and Career Pathways subcommittee, but we would like to get an update from somebody who gets designated for that group. But we'll start with Danny on the communications subcommittee updates.
So ours was after we struggled to get all in one meeting there, we chatted briefly. One of the major things we talked about, and I may have Jennifer step in here and speak a little bit. There are some concerns about the upcoming state plan and how our goals are written and affect workforce services. As far as our strategic plan goals, we need to be sure that those goals are aligning and benefiting workforce services and not just the council. I'm sure Jennifer can speak to that. She's conveyed to me what she could and to our communications committee what she could, but she understands it more thoroughly. So we did want to have Jennifer, you speak a little bit about that issue with the goals and how they need to be tailored appropriately. And then, so just before you do that, the one other thing we talked about in our committee is still, especially with Director Cooley having traveled, the idea of some sort of, lack of a better term, swag, notepad, something like that. We know it's come up a couple times, but something branded that we can share out to the world. Not a huge priority, but those are the two things we discussed as we're attempting to build the brand of our council.
I think that's brilliant. Yeah, propose to us what you think that looks like, you know, and let's see if we can make that happen. But I think that's great.
Right.
Jennifer, do we have rules around, like, I don't know, marketing expenditures? Do we have to call it a certain thing to make sure we're compliant?
Well, we do have some leeway that we haven't before when it comes to items for outreach. But also at the last quarterly meeting in November, the council voted to move all the foundation's funding so that and close the foundations so that the workforce centers can create a plan to buy those kind of outreach materials. So notebooks, pens, things that make sense, but also things that will engage youth that we don't have that opportunity to buy with federal funds at all. So they're going to work on this after they're not so busy with the state plan and the new MIS system. They're going to create a plan for what they would like to do with those foundation dollars so that we can engage with people more, both when someone like Director Cooley travels, but also all of our wonderful job fairs that we attend, but also host.
Thank you. Jennifer, if you could speak just a little bit to the strategic plan goals as you discussed with the communications committee last month.
Yes, thank you, Dan. In fact, I'm really glad you brought this up because soon on February 2nd, the state plan will be posted for public comment. And that is also the time frame that the council needs to make their or review the document, the state plan, and provide any comments on that as well. So when you review the state plan, the goals that are put in there are your goals. The kind of how we're going to get there might be worded different. And the reason for this is some of the goals I had to go back to original conversations to see where they came from so that we could put that information in, and thankfully Align laid all those out. So that was put in. But as Chairman Bureau stated, it's bigger than the council. It's actually bigger than DWS. It's the whole titles, all of the titles. So we need to include adult education in the strategic plan. Vocational rehabilitation is a part of this, as well as the programs that we think of for WIOA. So the adult, youth and dislocated workers. It really is bigger for the workforce system. And thankfully, you did discuss that. You do have goals that are broad enough to cover the whole system. Now, some of those specifics, I had to go back to earlier conversations about how we got to what the next steps are. But the council's next steps are the same. They're what you chose. But for the whole workforce system, I had to go back to some of your earlier conversations.
Great. Thank you. Danny, do you have a pulse on, and Jennifer perhaps as well, do we have a pulse on kind of like where we stand with the assignment that you had regarding the op-ed pieces and getting some of those either written or distributed to local media?
Jennifer?
There are 3. I can list them.
Good. Okay. That's good.
Fabian has done it. Danny Burrow has completed the assignment, and so has Michael Kircher. So again, I ask you all to, if you wish, to complete the op-ed document and send it back to me. We're also using those when we need to feature a council member on our Facebook page. So we've done Michael Kircher already on a time when that was appropriate. We didn't have any other news that we needed to send out. So again, if you're so inclined, do that.
I don't want this to be a daunting or, mega time suck kind of project for people. So, but if you want to share mine and or Danny's around, or, all of them, if you would like, to share them around, just so people kind of get an idea of what we're trying to accomplish. It's not a heavy lift, but I think it's yet one more way where we can kind of put ourselves out there. And I think it's an effective way that the communications committee came up with. So, anyway, if we could do that, that would be wonderful. Thank you. Got questions on it? Feel free to reach out to Danny directly, hit me up, whatever. Let's get those out there en masse. Great. Any other things to add to that, Danny, on the subcommittee updates?
That's it from us, Mr. Chairman.
Right on. Thank you very much. Sector partnerships and career pathways. I understand again, Tony might have had to step out unplanned, but if you guys have assigned somebody to kind of provide the updates for that, that would be wonderful.
Mr. Chairman will step in for Tony in his absence.
Great, thank you.
You're welcome. We talked a lot about the academy coming up in April. As we talked earlier, 4/24, 4/25 is kind of the date range. On 4/24, we're going to try to put together a tour at the new advanced manufacturing facility at Laramie County Community College. It's very, very advanced actually, and they're getting new equipment all the time. It's pretty exciting to see some of the stuff they're doing over there, boot camps for kids and involving some of the retired folks and offering monthly memberships to go in and just create and explore. And it's a really, really awesome facility. So we'll try to arrange that for April 24th, as well as a tour of the Capitol building and parts of the Hirschler building since the remodel. We recognize a lot of folks from around the state might not have had an opportunity to see all the improvements made at our state capitol. So we were trying to incorporate that a little bit into having this next gen academy in Cheyenne. The actual academy itself will start the morning of April 25th, and it'll run 8:30 to 4 p.m. On the 25th, there are 2 virtual 101s coming up. One on February 27th to begin at noon. Another virtual 101 coming up on March 21st at 1 p.m. And I neglected to mention there is an in-person Next Gen 101 on April 24th before these tour opportunities.
Great. Thank you very much, Larry. Thanks for being put on the spot as well.
No
all right, strategic performance and finance.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes.
when I popped in, there were no members in that committee room. But I also believe they don't have any current updates.
Any current updates? Okay, very good. Well, then with that, I will open up for public comment. If there's anything anyone would like to say, add, talk about, celebrate, etc. No, it's been a long Zoom day. I totally get it. I get it. Just very quick in closing, I do want to say thanks again for kind of bearing through a Zoom meeting. They're painful at some level, but they're also efficient at another level. You know, it certainly saves us a few dollars and allows us to kind of dedicate those dollars to the programs and initiatives that do the hard work. And so I think we welcome that. I think we welcome the fact that we don't have to travel around the state in treacherous conditions. And yet we do get to still see one another 3 times a year. So I think this was a wise decision. If you've got feedback for how we can improve the format of it, you know, again, Zoom's not a human-to-human facial interaction. It's always still a little awkward. Any thoughts are welcome. So, but to bring all this back to kind of center, I do want to thank all of you personally for continuing to give to Wyoming's workforce. I know we come at this from different industries and backgrounds, and while today we got to have a little bit of spirited discussion, I always try to remember that it comes from the right place within all of us. So thank you for risking, thank you for being vulnerable, and offering your ideas and your energies to our mission. So because I do appreciate that we live in a weird time where every day when you read the news, it just seems like something's either going to revolutionize work or wipe out humanity, from conflicts around the country to quantum computing to AI to climate change. I salute the people and I tip my hat to the people that are able to kind of just keep their head down and continue to push the hard things forward of improving workforce in Wyoming. So I do want to say thank you. And with that, I would welcome a motion to adjourn the meeting today.
Mr. Chairman, I have one more thing before we
Please
adjourn.
Yes.
So I think as you all know, we talked about this morning, you know, Director Cooley, it's been a pleasure, a treasure, a joy we cannot measure for your nearly 5 years of service for the Department of Workforce. And there was a surprise that was going to happen today, but the kind of inclement weather earlier today here in Cheyenne, I ordered some flowers and we created a little certificate for you. I was going to go knock on your door, so I will probably come try to find you if you're in the office on Friday. But yeah, so we got you as a council just to thank you for your time, which I know with the background, there's oh, you can't even really see it. There's a balloon, and this is a beautiful bird of paradise tree. And for those of you who don't know me, I am a big plant person outside of computer science world. So actually, hold on, let me see if, can I turn the background off? Let's see, choose virtual background, none. Okay, there we go. So I've got a congratulations bubble and a bird of paradise tree. And, you know, I'm not 100% sure if you're actually going to get this because I probably want to keep it for myself because it's so pretty. But yes, and so we have this for you. I'll drop this off to you either tomorrow or sometime next week. I just got to keep my cats from eating it in the meantime. So I will do that. And then we also did, you know, just give you a little certificate, you know, and I just want to read that in front of the full council. So in celebration of your new appointment, we, the Wyoming Workforce Development Council, extend our heartfelt congratulations and most profound appreciation for your outstanding leadership at the Department of Workforce Services. Your tenure has been a beacon of excellence and setting the stage for a more robust workforce in Wyoming. Your visionary guidance and unwavering commitment have profoundly shaped the workforce landscape for our state. Under your leadership, the department has achieved remarkable milestones, fostering an environment where opportunities flourish and progress thrives. You have uplifted countless lives, leaving an indelible mark on the state and our people. As you embark on this new chapter, we want you to know how much your efforts have meant to us. You've been more than a leader. You've been a mentor, an advocate, a trailblazer, setting a high standard for all who follow. Your dedication to serving the constituents of Wyoming will be deeply missed, but your influence will continue shaping Wyoming in a new and exciting way in your new role. We are grateful for having the privilege to work under your leadership. Your legacy at the Department of Workforce Services will continue to inspire future generations. We wish you all the best in your new role, Director Cooley. May your future be as impactful and fulfilling as your time was with us. With sincere gratitude and best wishes, the Wyoming Workforce Development Council. So congratulations, Director Cooley. We're going to deeply miss you, but you know, again, you're not leaving Wyoming, you're here in Cheyenne, and we're just really, it's been, I still remember that one day, you know, walking into that little trail, like you had just become the director, and, you know, I was excited to meet you. And when we had in our personal story, when we did our strategic planning, you and I got partnered up. And I think one of the questions was like, if you were doing something different outside of your role, what you do, I've always kept that in my mind because you mentioned to me that you want to do a boutique. So I am really excited to either see like Cooley's Closet or Robin's Rarities. I don't know. So those are probably two very cheap marketing names, but just thank you for, leading the department, and thank you for, such a smooth handoff. And yeah, I will potentially deliver these flowers. If you don't get them tomorrow, that means I decided to keep them. So, but the feeling is mutual. So
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Mr. Madsen.
Yeah, just really quickly, Director, I just want to remind you that we're all innocent, Judge.
Yes, hopefully the next time we see you, we're not being called into your office.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much. It's been my privilege and pleasure. It's been quite a ride over here, and the team that is over here is absolutely incredible. Going through COVID, it was just it was such an experience and an opportunity, and I can't thank them all enough. So thank you, and thanks to the team. Appreciate it.
Well said. Great. Thank you very much. With that, motion to adjourn. Second.
Second.
Thank you. All right, guys. Thank you very much. We'll look forward to seeing you guys soon. Thank you for continuing the great work of workforce development. Director Cooley, all our best.
Thank you.
all right. Bye, everyone.